Okay, moving on to the standings, perhaps the most important topic of them all is the end of the day. It's all that matters is what your record is and where you stand. Um, Top of the Pigskin Pansies division is myself. Top of Ugly Helmets division is Justin, and we are both at 2-0, 2 wins. At the bottom of the division is Paulus and Nigeli in their respective divisions. I'm leading my division by approximately 30 points, where Hare is leading his division by approximately 5 points. So it's certainly a tight race in Hare's division, with a few folks being tight there. I do think the points forwards are probably a good leading indicator as to why you're sitting at wherever your record is. Certainly there are some anomalies, but I do think that's a good indicator. 2 weeks in, I mean, it's so early. We'll have to see where the rest of the season goes, but to me, that usually indicates one of three things. One, how well you drafted, and those are players are coming in and coming through for you. If you were decimated by injuries, or perhaps given it's only 2 weeks, you might have had a bad, your player might have had a bad matchup against a good defense, so they didn't, they're not playing to the full potential. So it's so early that any of those things could play into, but I think those are the three main drivers to that. Luckily, if we're looking at it from a draft perspective, luckily Hare and Gallagher, who are leading all 10 teams as far as points for are concerned, luckily they had somebody else, Julian, in fully draft for them. So otherwise, I'm sure they'd be at the bottom of their division. So you can thank those guys next time you see them. As far as projections, I originally projected in the Ugly Helmets division for Hare and Nigeli to be taking that division, with Gal giving them a run for their money. I think looking at the division, which by the way, I think this is the tougher division to be in. I think we have a lot of strong teams in here, but picking the top two projections that I think will be into the playoffs, I'm moving Nigeli out of my projection and inputting Nick into the top three, where we originally had Hare, Nigeli, and Gal. I'm having Hare, Gal, and Nick. And if I had to pick two, I think I'm going to go with checking out. Yeah, I think I'm going to end up going with Hare and Gallagher. I think it's very, very close between those three, but I'm just going to give the edge to Hare and Gallagher simply because they have the better quarterbacks. I do think Nick does have a strong team. But that being said, Derek and if Nigeli gets his players healthy and back, they do have strong contending teams. So who knows? My projections could change throughout the year. But for now, I think it's Hare and Gallagher simply getting the edge with their quarterbacks. In my division, I still think I'm going to make the playoffs in that one. And my original projection was myself and Andy, and I still think that holds true today. We have the two highest points for in our division, though it's still, it's tighter, where Andy's sitting at 208. Next closest one is 201. So it's a little tighter as far as points in that space, but I do think that Andy's going to take the second place still, so my projections haven't changed there. Certainly because Paul dug himself into a little bit of a hole, 0-2. I had him sitting out as a third player on my original projection, but I still think I'm going to end up putting him there. But because he's put himself in this hole, I think it's more of a lock for Andy and I to be in the playoffs. Okay, so that rounds out just some general comments that we have over the first 2 weeks. A lot of injuries, a lot of suspensions, waiver wire moves, trades are happening. We only usually get to see maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 trades a year, and we already got one in the second week, which is probably one of the first, the earlier trades we've ever seen. And divisions, there's nothing surprising here as far as points for is concerned. The people with the most points are in first, and then it follows suit relatively evenly after that. Perhaps maybe one thing of note why I'm moving up Nick into the top 3 here is because despite his points for of 204 points, he basically lost 2 starters last week in the middle of the game and still ended up with 69 points. If he ended up getting another 30, which is 100, which is normally pretty doable, that does put him right in contention with Gallagher and almost pretty much matching his points for. So that's why I do think those 3 are the top 3 in that division at this point in time. So I guess I just wanted to mention that too. Again, as things progress throughout the year, I'll just make some general comments. If I have people here at the house, that'd be great to have them in here as well. Hopefully I can do some when we're wasted, which I think that'll be a little bit more fun too. So I guess we'll see you in a couple weeks, a week, whatever. If something major happens, I'll try and jump on and get some conversations going. Thanks.